What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Drunk Turkey Show. There's a new podcast that was out on Fox Nation News or something like that. In fact, I caught the tail end of a podcast like 2 days ago or yesterday. I can't remember when it was. From I believe it's Jay for Justice podcast, and she was discussing part of that podcast on her channel, and I wasn't aware of it, and so I went out and paid the subscription. And actually, I didn't. I got a veterans deal, so I got it for free. But I got a year free. It's pretty cool. If you're a veteran, go check it out. And if you're not, they got some pretty good stuff out there. But anywho, I digress. We're going to be looking into this podcast and listening in and kind of giving our thoughts. There's some new information. I kind of cut out some of the more important parts. If you want to catch the full podcast, I'd recommend just going out to Fox and check it out there. Let's watch this. And first and foremost, this is a friend of Bryan Kohberger's who attended high school with him and then was his friend again during some of the low points in Kohberger's life.
So my first impression of Bryan was he's just a pretty normal kid, He was more of a quiet, funny guy, but not really quiet, just more of the calm guy.
Jack Bayless meets Bryan Kohberger in middle school.
And he was very curious. That's probably one of the bigger traits I remember from Bryan. What if reality is just a dream kind of stuff, just really profound kind of stuff, I guess.
Bayless and Kohberger's friendship looks like any other. Two teens being teens in rural Pennsylvania.
So he said something there that, what if we lived in the Matrix type stuff? I don't think that that's anything odd. You know what I mean? Us here, we've had that conversation amongst us. I get why they added on there. I guess maybe out of touch with reality, but I don't know. I don't think that's too. But I did want to say something about it. Let's continue.
We just hang around in the woods and do preteen, teenage things. Flipping rocks, looking for snakes, and hanging out and playing video games. Being at his house, it looked relatively cozy. It looked like a normal house. We had normal parents. If something was there that was off, I would have remembered it.
A normal home, normal parents, normal friends. By all accounts, from the outside looking in, everything is just that, normal. Except for a medical condition that takes center stage in Kohberger's life from a very young age.
I know he also struggled with visual snow.
The condition makes him see static, like an old TV set. He starts writing about it in an online forum when he's 15.
So first he says that he knew about his friend being on visual snow, right? I guess that means that Bryan Kohberger was open about it, maybe discussed with him some of the symptoms he was having. What do you guys think? Start off with you, Jaime.
The visual snow, I think we talked about it a while back, right? That I don't know if it progresses throughout with time. I don't know if it gets better or gets worse. I'm not really sure. I'm not really knowledgeable about that.
You're right. You're correct. There's no way of telling. And I think that there's not a lot of information out there on visual snow. I know that when it was first reported that he had visual snow, a lot of folks looked into it. And some people speculated if it was even real, things of that nature. He was apparently, in my opinion, he was doing the whole veganism or being a vegan and that stuff because of the symptoms that were with the visual snow, that he would alleviate some of those symptoms. The fact that he would continue that diet to this day, and this is from when he was in high school. So he's 28, so about for 10 years, that tells me that he's probably still suffering from the symptoms. And given the fact that he doesn't want anything that he's going to eat cooked on pans that had meat on it before. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a doctor or anything like that, but that kind of tells me that maybe it's gotten worse. But I don't know. We don't know where he started. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, like if this dieting or this, being vegan or whatnot is helping the visual snow, then it has both two benefits, right? The visual snow less and also his weight, right? Because he was a little bit overweight at one point.
Right. Yeah, he was overweight and he ended up losing like 130 pounds. In fact, Nancy Grace goes into the podcast.
This is from a report that just came out probably about 5 days ago. There's no test for visual snow syndrome. It's diagnosed based on symptoms, history, and ruling out their causes. It is treated with thin glasses, adaptive strategies, and sometimes medication. This is all a new treatment because a while back they were saying there was no treatment for it.
Right. It's interesting. I don't know. I know somebody who says that they used to have visual snow, and I don't know, they don't have it anymore, so I don't know, maybe it does go away. You know what I'm saying? But I think that
they say it's like a form of headaches. They're kind of linking it to a little bit of migraines, but they're more like a headache, as they were saying.
So when I talked to this person that had visual snow, they told me that it was a symptom of when they would read, and as they were reading, visual snow would come across, but it was never about headaches or any of those things, and that was the only time that it affected them. Thank you for that, Blue. Here, this says from the New York Times that Idaho murder suspect felt no emotion and little remorse as a teen. This is from an article in January of 2023. You know, it's kind of disassociation, depersonalization, in my opinion, type of, things that are going on here with him where he's not having emotions. I'll ask you this. Do you think that a person could go in and commit a crime that like similar that was committed by somebody who had emotion?
Yeah, I think without showing any remorse, it would have to be somebody who feels like they have no feelings or no.
Right. But don't you think that a person that is capable of committing a crime like this would more than likely or more likely be a person that would have these types of symptoms versus somebody who would have reason with feelings and emotions? What do you think?
Yeah, they would more likely be able to cause something like this because they would have no feelings or remorse after they did it.
Yeah, I agree.
They'll be able to go to their class the next day. They'll be able to go to their doctor's appointments. Somebody who has like I would say gut feeling they did something wrong, they'd be like getting anxious, panicking, and from what we hear, he went back. If it is him, of course, it's speculation. He went back like the next day, like everything was normal, nothing changed.
Well, according to a couple of podcasts, he didn't go back to work that Monday. He was out that Monday, but he went the following day.
Yeah,
there you go.
nice.
I got to put this out there. So let's continue this.
Years old. The New York Times and true crime podcasters uncover these posts. In one, he says he's depressed, even suicidal.
I can't remember anything recent or anything from childhood. I'm just a blank soul living in the now. This whole thing has made me crazy. I feel like my life is pointless because people can think about times with parents' childhood memories and be happy, and I won't be able to.
Kohberger, the youngest in a family of 5, grows up in a quiet town surrounded by the Pocono Mountains with older sisters, Melissa and Amanda, mother, Marianne, dad, Michael.
They were very involved parents. It seemed like he had a very supportive home environment, and the parents were always there if needed.
Donna Yozuiak, Kohberger's former guidance counselor at Pleasant Valley High.
Dad worked as a mechanic. Mom was a paraprofessional. Very nice people. I met with them very frequently to discuss his career path.
So this is a counselor from his high school that had nothing but good praises for Bryan Kohberger and continues to think, speaks positive about Kohberger. Never says that she thinks he's innocent or guilty. She's obviously friends with Kohberger's family. She'll disclose that later. This is a person kind of going against what we've heard, saying that no, he was pretty normal. What do you guys take out of that?
I mean, BTK's family thought he was normal.
It's
That's
true.
not what he did. I mean,
Ted Bundy also, right?
Yeah.
It only like went down the drain after he was already going to college and whatnot. But from what I understand, serial killers and whatnot, they have like we were saying earlier, no remorse, no sympathy, no conscience.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why they can go and do these kind of things. And not only that, but like you see them when they get caught, that's the only time they feel bad. Then they get up there and whenever they want to address the court, they're just saying what people want to hear. So
yeah,
was it manipulated? So,
yeah, I hear you, and no, I agree. You guys made excellent points. There were some other folks that appeared to be normal, but this is a counselor. This is somebody who is trained to look for those type of things, right? What does that say about Kohberger if he did do this, that he was able to manipulate this lady into there was no red flags with him?
Okay, well, you said she's a counselor, right? At was it high school? Was it right? Okay, let me Kemper, the co-ed killer. He got arrested for, taking the lives of his grandma and grandpa, right? And ended up in a psychiatric ward for, looks like, I think it was like 13 or 14. I'm not really sure. But he was supposed to get out at 18, depending on how the evaluation was with the experts right there, this psychiatrist and whatnot. I mean, he got out and ended up, all the counselors, the psychiatrists and everybody, and made him believe that he was reformed, and he was let out. And by doing that, he had 8 other victims, 8 or 9 more victims, Wow. So they're gonna, and this is like, you're talking about experts and trying to evaluate a person that has already taken the lives of 2 other people, and not only that, but like relatives, right, of his. Yeah. And like, you gotta look at it like that, and then look at a counselor from high school too. I mean, I doubt that she has the same training or the same knowledge as an expert on the psych ward. You know what I mean? Touche.
That is a fair point. That is a fair point. An excellent point. Let's continue this.
He stood out in the fact that he was very intelligent. He was very intellectual. He would delve into topics that are not on a shallow level. The truth of the matter is there were no red flags. He had very good grades. He seemed very focused, academically motivated, and would not give a school counselor any reason for concern.
Despite the persona Kohberger's teachers see, his online posts continue.
I always feel as if I am not there, completely depersonalized. Easy thoughts. I feel like nothing has a point to it. When I get home, I am mean to my family. I can say and do whatever I want with little remorse. Everyone hates me. Pretty much, I am an asshole.
This is his words as a teenager. I don't know. I mean, maybe could it be puberty? Could it be some kind of phase he's going through that during that time? Or do you guys think that this is something, obviously with the outcome of what's going on, I think we would, if it was him, we would say that it a lot of things didn't change. What are y'all's opinions on this?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'll be honest, to read what he's putting out there, it's kind of like, I could see that, I think everybody has been through some sort of, I guess, in your life that you kind of feel like nobody cares and stuff, you feel like, kind of depressed. I know I have, Zoloft, but
no sponsorship.
No sponsorship, please. But yeah, no, I mean, I can totally see it, man. I mean, I recently, honestly, I'll be honest with you. I'm not the kind of guy that was good with my words. Obviously, I should know that. But like emotions and stuff like that. So like now I'm slowly starting to like open up a little bit more, because before I was really I kept to myself. Wasn't out there, trying to be out there and stuff. But now I'm desensitized. You know what I mean? Like I can watch whatever I want. I didn't talk about movies. I had no guilty conscience about a lot of stuff that I've done.
Yeah.
And now it's like everything that comes back, and now I start slowly seeing the people that I've hurt and stuff and whatnot. So like I can see what he's talking about.
And so I mean, it changed for you. So there's a possibility that it could have changed for him. This was when he was, I think, in high school. So we got to take that with a grain of salt. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm intelligent, but I feel the opposite. I say things I don't mean.
During high school, he says he wants to be an Army Ranger and seeks out a special program in addition to his regular classes at the Monroe Career and Technical Institute.
I remember working with his family and him to fill out the application. He was enrolling in the Protective Services program, and he was very enthusiastic.
So Protective Services prepares students for a career in law enforcement, EMT, things like that. Police Academy Junior, putting on pretend handcuffs. They police the building just as though they would officers on patrol.
Tanya Carmela Beers, a former administrator at the tech school.
Enrollment is very competitive. Protective Services is one of the most sought after programs. The cap is limited at 25. So that means for the 4 school districts in Monroe County, only 25 students could get in.
He needed to have good grades. He needed to have good attendance. He needed to have a discipline record that was non-existent.
We look at all the information that we can get about them because they are being given inside information about how police handle their business.
So he passed all the requirements to be put into this law program that was very selective, apparently. there was only 25 students out of 4 districts selected. And what they did was basically dress like a police officer and wear a security for the high school, during the halls and stuff, like hall monitors. I don't know. I think that there's nothing there yet. What, but what happens there, I think, is going to be interesting. So let's, I just had to break it up for the copyright reasons. Let's continue to hear this.
Getting in can be tricky, but he was able to get into the program and he met all of those standards.
To this day, Carmela Beers and Joswiak can't picture Kohberger in the halls.
I can actually see Bryan in my mind. I can see him walking because he's very tall.
I see him in his protective services uniform. I remember him dressed that way, patrolling the school with other students.
He carried the uniform very, very well, and you could tell that it was a real sense of pride for him to be doing that. This was something he was always interested in and something that he had always studied, and it was something that he had been looking at throughout even younger years.
He was very intrigued about the law and how he wanted to go into that field. He just wanted to help people.
Seeking a career in law enforcement or criminal justice, most people go into that because they want to make a difference. And then there are those that, it's fantasy material for them.
Dr. Chris Mahandi is a forensic psychologist. While there's no proof that we know of that Kohberger's studies are actually fantasy material for him, Mahandi is an expert in analyzing accused killers. He is not connected to this case. Mahandi believes some people who study the law are hiding more sinister motivations.
The things they're reading about are stimulating, but not in the right way. It's not the excitement of learning how you can serve your community better. It's the excitement of the offenses that they're learning about that becomes stimulating to them. Also because the power of the role in that area, their insatiable need for power over others.
When I think about
So basically what they're saying is that, or from what I understand, is that Kohberger was put in a couple of positions of authority. And when he was placed in those positions of authority, it didn't work out very well because he seems to be following this path of those that some study law enforcement for other reasons than helping people. Do you guys see that in this? I mean, you got to take out the outcome out of this because at the end of the day, he's innocent until proven guilty. And, we don't know for sure if he actually did it. We haven't seen all the evidence. Yeah. What do you think, Jaime?
First off, that lady looks like she's wearing the hat, so that's pretty funny on the screen. That's just funny. What's it called? But like if we take out what like the outcome right at the end of the day, like what happened in Idaho, you see it. They see that he's taking a little bit too much of a power trip, almost like you say, right? Usually never ends in a good way when they feel like they have so much authority over someone else,
Yeah, and I've seen it personally. I've seen it. I've heard about it. We've all seen it with other officers that get in trouble or things like that. And in the media, they just can't handle it, right? And they go a little bit overboard or whatever, get that power trip, as you mentioned. It could be common, but I don't think that it's something that automatically leads to, nefarious reasons. I knew that there was, folks in law enforcement that think that they're the law and all authority and all that stuff. And that doesn't translate to what Kohberger did. You know what I'm saying?
About how he took the program seriously. He was just very much needed to be in charge of everything. Like another student would watch the students for the day, be in charge of them as their patrol officer, if you will. He liked it when the other students answered to him, but it was to the nth degree. It was a little much. That time, it seemed like he was just really zealous. But then when I think back about it, all of those things, knowing what I know now, are flags.
Flags that Carmela Beers and Bayless admit they only began to notice after Kohberger's arrest.
Sometimes people snap, and you never know who's going to snap or why they snap.
One possible reason?
There are a number of ways people become arrogant and condescending. And one trajectory is a person who's been bullied, been made fun of, who may have had issues with their own body image.
He'd been a heavier guy, like a noticeably heavier guy. You could see it, Wasn't like he was, just a little chubby. He was pretty up there.
Some friends describe Kohberger as a, quote, overweight outcast. Socially awkward, they say he didn't really fit in. A classmate also recalls Kohberger's rocky relationship with women, saying Kohberger couldn't take a hint when he's rejected, leading girls to bully him and call him a creep.
once or twice, he wanted to hang out with girls. Like, oh, we should call this girl to hang out. We should call this girl to hang out. They'd always be busy or something.
Men who are frustrated, feel like they've been mistreated by women, view women as objects, have hostile, narrow-minded, rigid, intolerant views towards those women.
That is Dr. Mohandi's description of an incel.
Do you guys think that this was or Bryan Kohberger is an incel or motivated by being an incel? Start off with you, Jaime.
I don't think so, man. I really don't. I mean, if he was, he wouldn't even be trying in the first place, right?
Yeah. I mean, well, an incel is a person who is like a virgin, but isn't like wanting to be. And so he's rejected by women, even though he attempts to go out with them, I guess. But their constant rejection leads them to do crazy crap. I don't see that as the motive here, because that tells me that there's like a personal attack towards one of the victims. And I know that there's one victim that may have had more wounds than the others, or more severe wounds, but I don't think that that was necessarily the motive here. We discussed, in our last couple of shows, and we talked about our theory, and we said that our thoughts were that he was tired of being rejected from law enforcement school and maybe possibly women. I don't think it was specifically these girls. I think he knew that the ins and outs of how law enforcement would investigate him and tried to plan the perfect crime. And he wanted to, in my opinion, speculation, have the most or the biggest unsolved crime and embarrass local law enforcement because they didn't select him. The school there was, basically kicking him out as a TA. So he wasn't accepted in that area. He just came from, DeSales University, where he graduated with his master's degree, was one of two students who was recommended for the PhD program. Things started going bad. And like we said before, reports out there that he purchased a kbar style knife or kbar knife from Amazon in April of 2022, which is the same month, or that's the same month where he's given and that's where we see the email between him and the Pullman police chief, where he's thanking them for taking the time to visit with him, referencing a internship position. And since he's applying in the fall, we can say that he didn't get it in the spring. I don't think there's a coincidence that around that time he buys a knife. I think that started the process, in my opinion. What do you got? What do you think, Big Blue?
Yeah, but the first part, so the question about if he's an incel, I don't think he was. I think he's like the disclaimer says, he's innocent of proven guilty, because that's been seen in the chat thing. Why we think he's guilty. We don't think he's guilty. I mean, I'm more about 70% getting that way because of the evidence against him. I go back and forth. I don't think he's innocent, in my opinion, because of what they found on him and what he's done.
When it comes to Bryan Kohberger purchasing, that knife around the time that we think that he gets, dropped, tells me some things, but I don't think he was necessarily an incel. But we just recently had on our Wednesday night a call in from one of Bryan Kohberger's classmates from that HVAC class that he attended in high school. And he talked to Bryan Kohberger. He was an acquaintance. He wouldn't say he was like a friend of his, but he knew him. He talked to him in class when they were in group projects, and he stated that he never talked about girls. There's never an indication or a time where they thought that, or he thought he had a girlfriend or any of those type of things. He never talked about a specific girl he may have been interested in or not. And so I don't know. It's a little bit confusing because there's a lot of stories that indicate that he's a creep. He's, a weirdo. Can't trust him with girls. And then you have some other stories that say, he's a good guy. We'll see. There is a documented history of certain things that come out in this podcast. I think it'll kind of let us know which one it is. Let's continue.
Short for involuntary celibate.
They are dismissive of women as, whole human beings. It's like, on the one hand, I hate you, but on the other hand, I want to possess you as an object. And how dare you reject me? There's no evidence that Bryan Kohberger was an incel. But an individual doesn't have to be an incel to be sympathetic to the ideas and the viewpoint of incels.
Once known as being bright, eager, with the world at his fingertips, things take a turn for Kohberger while he's in the Protective Services program. His administrator shares information on camera with us for the very first time.
There had been one or two incidents that had occurred that I had dealt with concerning him. For Bryan, the situations subtle. They weren't really bold situations, but they rose to the degree as they began to mount.
Bound by a student confidentiality law, Carmela Beers cannot reveal exact details of the quote incidents, but she does disclose they are related to female students.
You might not think necessarily of a female in protective services, but that was something that we recruited for. Some of the issues that arose were based on having a mixed population in that classroom. One of those incidents ultimately resulted in him being removed from that program.
She says
Bryan Kohberger was removed, and it is speculated because of some kind of, I don't want to say altercation, but some sort of incident, a female student. We read in another article about that incident, and it was actually referencing, I guess, this Camilla Beers lady who had talked to another news media, and she had stated that it wasn't violent or aggressive or things of that nature. What do you guys think it could have been, which got him barred from the program, kicked out, and sent to the HVAC program? We'll start off with you, Big Blue.
I think, in my theory, is that he seems like the person probably doesn't like being told what to do by a woman. If they put her in charge for the day or something in the class, he probably didn't like it. That to me, that happens a lot.
Maybe made a statement like,
Yeah.
I don't need to listen to you or something, or you're beneath
Maybe.
me. But is that enough to kick him out?
Not enough, but if it happens more than once or an ongoing situation, somebody's got to get booted from the program. And it depends who has the attitude. And at that time, remember, he was having attitude. He was
No. This was in high school.
Yeah, that's when he started doing kickboxing because of his anger issues.
No, I don't think it was because he had any anger issues. I don't think that ever came out that he had anger issues. I think he was doing the kickboxing as a form of trying to lose weight. I don't think that had anything to do with it. We'll start this. Continue this.
kicked out of protective services, the program he works so diligently to get into in the first place. The school transfers him into the HVAC program, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. This program has no female students.
I think that's a big indication or a big flag that he was moved from a program and moved to another one because they don't have female students. What do you think about that?
I think so, because even when he was a TA, remember they talk about the other students kind of like, I guess, trying to keep him from one of the female students there too. Yeah,
exactly. What do you think, Jaime? Do you think that there's a pattern here being developed?
I think so. I think maybe he was over pursuing a female student, and that wasn't gonna fly with her, I guess. Yeah.
What we know so far is that he's gotten kicked out. I think he got fired, right, or released from his job as like a fish cutter, right? So he gets released there, fired there. He's been cut from the law enforcement program. He's been released there. He was fired also as a TA, right? He didn't get into the intern police departments, probably because of his background. I don't know. I think there's a pattern developing. Let's continue.
We were also a little bit more comfortable knowing that any possible continuation of negative behaviors would not occur in a situation where there were no females. It was concerning because there was such a dichotomy between what he presented academically and what he was living in an emotional, social aspect of his life.
This dichotomy is evident in Kohberger's reported online posts.
I am stuck in the depths of my mind, where I have to constantly battle my demons. I might spiral out of control and lose myself in the void. I felt like a criminal, but where was my record? I am blank. I have no opinion. I have no emotion. I have nothing. Can you relate?
Kohberger's friend Jack Bayless recalls an extreme change in his once shy friend.
He lost a lot of weight, like really fast, but I feel like he was more confident in himself. I think he had to have vocalized his confidence, like, now I'm, I lost this weight, I'm probably more attractive.
Kohberger loses 130 pounds by his senior year of high school. He did it by running and boxing every single day. Kohberger also writes about his transformation in the same online posts revealed by true crime podcasters and the New York Times.
I used to be this healthy blonde-haired boy with blue eyes, and in a few years, I have darker hair and darker eyes, half the body weight.
The bullying, the body image issues, those become the seeds from which a need to create a false self that is superior to others emerges.
But based on what they're saying, I think that there may have been, like Blue stated, they don't want to put him in a situation where there's females around. They put him in the HVAC place. I think Blue's spot on. It seems like he's having some problems though everywhere he goes.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah, that's what's been reported. So I don't know. I don't know if it's a authority issue or maybe at that point he could have been more of an incel, and those things were occurring.
Right. Well, he lost over 130 pounds, and he was doing the boxing thing. If he was bullied, and then he gets into a position of authority, somewhat, he's wearing a uniform, being able to walk around, the campus as a form of some sort of authority. I can see how that can, get to a person's head. You know what I'm saying? Let's continue this.
Others emerges.
Friends claim Kohberger develops anger issues, even putting one friend in a headlock, leading that friend to cut ties. Bella says he only sees that side when Kohberger's drinking.
When he get drunk, he get kind of aggressive, kind of rowdy. There's one instance where he was trying to drive somewhere, and we had to take his keys and hide them. So when I say aggressive, I mean we had to physically move him from the keys and prevent him from getting his keys.
I don't think that's anything too crazy. We've all had a friend who drank too much, and while they were drinking, they weren't in the right mindset, and when and you had to physically take their keys away from them. I don't think that those people are necessarily evil or anything. You know what I'm saying? I don't think that's a characteristic or a check mark. But
I agree. I mean, everybody's been through that. Taking those keys away from those overly hydrated people.
We've had to take the keys from Blue a couple of times in high school.
It was high school, so that was a good time.
He was riding a bike, so I just took the seat.
He still left on it. All right, let's go.
Friends allege alcohol use turns to drug abuse, and Kohberger gets hooked on heroin. He and Bayless lose touch.
He started kind of branching out from the original group to hang out with a different group. That group, they did some sketchy drugs.
Rich Pasca is a former acquaintance of Kohberger. He tells Fox the two were deep into an addiction.
I met him through some friends, and they told me that he was a little weird, and he was a little socially awkward, I guess you could say. But he wasn't a bad guy. I got 6 years clean now. I work in treatment and everything, but back then I was using, and so that's how I know for a fact he was using. I've got high with him a couple times.
Teachers say heroin use is a major problem in that area. At the same time, Kohberger's alleged heroin addiction is at its height. His troubles at the tech school continue.
He was in HVAC for the rest of his time at the Career and Technical Institute, and other issues arose that he decided to leave the school altogether and not complete his 12th grade year there.
After leaving the program, Kohberger finishes his senior year of Pleasant Valley High online.
Is that another flag for you guys? Another thing that he doesn't get to finish correctly. He's getting, basically, in my opinion, sounds like it's getting like he's kicked out of school. What do you guys think?
Yeah, like you were saying, like he can't finish, or he gets taken off of certain things because either his attitude or his creepiness, I guess you could say, or his almost like a narcissist, right?
Yeah, to a certain extent. I think you can see that. I just think that there's a bit of a pattern being developed here of him not finishing things because of his behavior. A lot of people are saying that, they wouldn't think that a guy like Bryan Kohberger would have committed, this crime. But when you kind of look into who he is, I don't know. I don't know if that's still rings the same to me. What about you, Big Blue? What do you think?
I think one thing that's weird is that he didn't go back to a regular school, but I think he was going through something. Maybe at that time they said he was doing some drugs, so maybe he just wasn't even focusing on school, like attending. But he can still do the work real quick at home and just do whatever he wanted. I think the hard part is like the HVAC program. It's a little difficult to have some friends go through it, and I would sometimes see the books that they would do. It's sometimes a little bit of math and stuff, but he's a smart guy, so you should get that part. Maybe it was a physical concept, or maybe it was just that he was doing something else, distracting him from going to his class.
All right, let's continue this.
Graduates and reportedly gets help for his addiction.
I know he was in and out of rehab a couple times.
Around that time, Kohberger reportedly arrested for stealing and selling his sister's iPhone after his own father calls police. He is charged with misdemeanor theft, but does not go to jail, and his record is wiped clean. Somehow, Kohberger kicks his heroin habit and begins to study psychology at community college. Even though some say he's got a rocky past with his former school district, he applies as a part-time security guard at his former high school.
I do know he was.
What do you think about that? That the high school that kicked him out of the law enforcement program hired him back as a security guard. Start off with you, Blue. What are your opinion on that?
My opinion is that they didn't even do a proper background check, man. Somebody that had so many issues with students, and you're gonna allow him to be a security guard there. There was some lack in the background checks or something.
Yeah. What do you think, Jaime?
It's weird. That's weird, man. I don't know if they were having so much problems and stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Why would they hire? I mean, they not only kicked him out of that program, but they essentially kicked him out of school after that. And so, like, all right, maybe they thought he matured after drug, after drug abuse that matured him up a little bit. I don't know. It didn't sound like he was we'll see. Do you guys think that it's going to end on a happy note based on his pattern? Do you think his security gig ends on a happy note?
Negative.
All right, well, let's find out.
Always interested in law enforcement. That's usually kind of a dip your toes in the water kind of experience, is being a security guard for somewhere where you don't have to have that police training.
While on the job, Kohberger reportedly helps a fellow security guard save the life of a hall monitor struggling to breathe. Kohberger's life seemingly takes a turn for the better. Like most college students, he reportedly decides to put himself out there in the dating world. But the trends from high school go on. Only after his arrest, a woman named Haley Willette comes forward. She says she meets him through Tinder during his early college years and that he's very pushy and a stage 5 clinger. Willette says Kohberger tells her she has good birthing hips.
I have to stop and say the good birthing hips. It's from a movie called Dark Shadows, starring Johnny Depp. Go, after the show, you can search it on YouTube. I'm going to call a spade a spade. That, in my opinion, wasn't anything. We watched a movie with him. They were going to watch another movie. She was socially awkward, freaked out, and went to pretend that she was throwing up. And so he left. And then he said the good birthing hips. I wouldn't be surprised that the movie they were seeing or watching was Dark Shadows or whatever it's called. And so, I just wanted to stop that to say, just to be fair, you know what I'm saying? We're not biased here. We're not pushing one way or another. If we say it twice because it's so nice. If we see something that is not correct or right, one way or the other, we're going to stop and point it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Blue's a 5-stage cleaner.
I know there was more stages.
Somebody told me I have good birthing hips too.
What's it called? Hashtag I always believe Johnny Depp.
100%. All right, let's watch this. Oh no, I'm gonna have to start this all over again. 1425. It's because I went backwards.
It's because it heard Blue saying about good birthing hips,
and he got too excited.
It was like, what's going on? Your computer started sweating. Wait, how many stages are of clingers?
I guess there's 5. I mean, I would assume.
Yeah, because if it was the 10 stages, then 5's not that bad.
Yeah, that's only halfway there. I mean, that's like, they call you every other day. That's not bad.
It's not bad. Like, hey, sometimes I want to hear his voice.
All right, let's do this.
College years, and that he's very pushy and a stage 5 clinger. Willette says Kohberger tells her she has good birthing hips. This behavior, again, reminds Dr. Mohandi of an incel.
Incels. A lot of them are socially awkward. They're going to use the dating apps. They may misrepresent themselves, sort of catfish, if you will. But when it comes down to relating on an emotional, true connection, it's going to fall short.
After graduating community college, Kohberger moves on to DeSales University and continues to study psychology, reconnecting with his childhood friend.
To me personally, he really opened up more in his later college years. We're talking more than we talked in high school. He called me fairly often.
Bella shares private messages from around this time.
He goes and says, I like forensic psychology and studying criminals. I don't care about the money. And he's saying, I would assist in the capture of a violent criminal for sure, but getting a job like that is difficult.
He don't care about the money. He wants to assist in capturing a violent criminal, but getting a job like that is difficult. puts thanks man with a heart. Yeah, that's from Bryan Kohberger. He has actually he kept his text messages. What are the chances that you have the same phone and text messages from freaking 2014 or 2020 or whenever he was into sales?
Yeah, that was a long time ago. That's crazy.
I don't think I ever said y'all heart.
I don't think so either. I don't
That's
know why
gonna
you
change
don't.
right now.
Oh man, that is kind of weird. All right, let's see. Let's continue this. But he says that he wants to, be capturing violent criminals. Crime he's accused of.
Yeah, that wasn't a heart. That was an eggplant.
So here he says, I'm thinking more along the line of dealing with high-profile offenders. What did I say? I thought his motive was to create the biggest high-profile case that was unsolved. He's talking about capturing a high-profile offender that's a violent offender. I wonder,
assist and maybe even finding or arresting serial killers or crimes of that type that are up there that are grabbing the nation's attention.
Yeah, and like we said, when it comes to the motive and why Bryan Kohberger did this, we thought that if he was trying to commit a perfect crime or get away with this crime, that Land Rover would be a deterrent. The fact that it wasn't leads me to believe one or two things, right? That it was a necessity. It had to be that night. No other ands, its, or buts. It doesn't matter who's there. Or B, it was never about the victims, and it was about having multiple victims to create a higher profile case. The more victims you have, the higher likely that you're going to get news media attention. Then you attack a sorority, off-campus sorority house because they're young, attractive females. That's definitely going to tend to attract news media across the board. That's what we thought was the possible motive. And if he's talking about those type of things, I mean, come on now. It doesn't take a rocket science to connect these dots, right?
What would you think if he would have done it at a frat house? Would they be this much publicity and publication?
I think so, man. If you have a slaughter like this, unless it's like, I don't know, the Texas border, then this doesn't get much attention. But if you have a slaughter like this and a small community where it's not expected and the victims are young, I think that it would have probably gained the same amount of attention.
I think he took the easy way out by going to a sorority instead of a frat house. But it was off campus living, so I don't think it really was a sorority, because I think sororities you can't have guys living with you.
Right. And here's the thing. If he did follow these girls or stalk these girls or do those type of things, I think he would have known that the occupants of the house were female. Now, I think that's one of the reasons why he chose that house. I've said it multiple times. He looked for the house with the biggest party, whose primary residents were female. That would have created a couple of things, couple of advantages for him. One, he could utilize wearing common shoes that are commonly worn by, college age students, the Vans, because you can expect there's going to be that shoe pattern by both male and female all around that house and inside that house because of the amount of college age people that are going to that house. The night before the incident, 150 people there. So you have a lot of people going in and out. That's a lot of DNA being left behind, more probable cause, more work for law enforcement to have to do. So, when they say that the house could have been the target, I think that's what they mean. That's the reason why the house was the target, not necessarily any of the individual victims.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I think that if he did create more severe injuries on one, that was probably staged, so that way it would look a certain way.
To throw off law enforcement.
Exactly. Make them think that it's a personal thing. Look at a boyfriend, look at an ex, look at the roommates, look at somebody that lives close by, whoever discovers the bodies in the morning, not look at him. You know what I'm saying? All right, let's continue this.
High-profile offenders.
In the messages, Kohberger also opens up about the root of his teenage heroin addiction.
I only knew when I was in a deep suicidal state, and he says, I've been depressed for so long that I developed a weird sense of meaning. And he says, I've been depressed since I was 5.
One of the main topics of discussion, women.
So the thing we talk about a lot, the dating scene, it just got kind of just really hard. But he was just having a time, getting ghosted a lot, talking to a girl and then wondering, why didn't she text back ever? And then also be like, yeah, I was talking to this girl and this girl was cute and I thought we hit it off and we didn't, I guess. So you'd vent about stuff like that to me. I think he just felt frustrated is just the biggest word.
Frustrated, a feeling Dr. Chris Mahandi believes is common for incels.
So there's a sense of entitlement that goes with this community of men. Some who actually commiserate in their hatred of women, in their frustrations with not being able to obtain their desired, idealized, woman as a sexual object.
The owner of a brewery comes forward and recalls Kohberger making creepy comments towards female staff and customers. Others, like Kohberger's former classmate Josh Ferraro, have positive memories.
I mean, he was a really nice guy. The guy that I went to college with, that dude was nice. My first impression of him was he's a little odd, but he's a nice guy. Does not stand out, but he blended in. Like, he was a pretty normal guy.
Kohberger graduates undergrad and continues at DeSales to get a master's in criminal justice. He dives deep into research, seeking out ex-cons for a project, then posting a survey with questions like, before making your move, how did you approach the victim or target? And after committing the crime, what were you thinking and feeling? While getting his master's, Kohberger has one final get-together with his childhood friend.
The last time I saw Bryan, he was looking really good. It looked like he kicked his hair audition. He looked healthy. That day, we went into the woods. We have a lot of trees that you can use to kind of hide behind. And we just shot airsoft guns at each other and just kind of ran around the woods with airsoft guns. When I left him that day, I felt probably more at ease because the last time I talked to him, we'd been having problems. It looked like those problems had subsided. He was calm. He's a collected, confident man. Nothing seemed terribly off.
Nothing seems terribly off, but trouble is brewing. After nearly 5 years on the job, Kohberger resigns as the part-time security guard. His resignation letter reads, I understand that if I do not resign, I have a right to a school board hearing to determine if I should be dismissed from employment with the school district.
All right, here it is. So apparently another job doesn't go well for Kohberger. It seems like he can hide those types of problems. The student that was his classmate thought he was a nice guy. His friend wasn't aware of the problems that he was going on as a security guard. But, and he doesn't get fired. But this is saying, I understand that if I do not resign, I have a right to a school board hearing to determine if I should be dismissed from employment with the school district. That means that he was about to get fired. It was like, you get fired or you're going to quit or you're going to get fired.
Yeah.
Hold on.
You give him an ultimatum. Pretty
much. And he chose the resignation so that it wouldn't affect his, in my opinion, it wouldn't affect his
work history.
Yeah, exactly. I think that would have been detrimental, especially trying to pursue a law enforcement career.
That wouldn't look good on his application.
Yeah, because it wouldn't look good saying, I got fired from a security job.
Yeah, no, for sure. Mitch Girl says BK's professor Michelle Bolgers helped him with the survey project. I think I heard that too. But she also mentioned that Kohberger was brilliant and one of her best students, but that he really didn't know him because all of their communication was through Zoom, as it was the time of the pandemic. I don't know. Well, this here says that he got fired from this job. How many businesses keep these records? With the school.
Yeah. The federal.
Yeah. With the school board and anything with, I think that maybe perhaps the high school stuff isn't a record per se. I think they're going based off of the testimony, or not the testimony, but the statements from the persons that were working in positions that would know about Bryan Kohberger and the situations that he was going through. You know what I mean? Yeah, the most businesses do keep records. You kind of have to for tax purposes reasons. They can audit you back like 7 years. You need to keep a lot of information for quite a bit of time. And Kohberger's only 28 years old. I'm not surprised that they have a lot of his records. But fired from the cutting fish, released from the program at the high school that was in law enforcement, basically forced to resign from the security job. And then you also have the TA job that we're aware of. Right. Every situation that he's been a part of, he's been released or terminated based on what we only can assume is probably some sort of behavior. Let's continue.
The reasons behind Kohberger's resignation remain unclear. While finishing his studies at DeSales, Kohberger, now 28, reportedly buys a kbar knife and a sheath on Amazon. Months later, he moves cross-country to Pullman, Washington to get his PhD in criminal justice from Washington State University. 20 minutes down the road, from University of Idaho. Kohberger applies for an internship with the Pullman Police Department. In his application, he expresses an interest in helping cops, quote, better collect and analyze technological data in public safety operations. He doesn't get the job, but he is hired as a teaching assistant.
We know now that he didn't get the job in the fall as well. Now, we can probably assume that the reasons why he didn't get the job the first time in the spring, it could have been the reasons, going as far as why he was getting terminated or forced to resign as a school security guard. They probably told him something to the effect like, hey, we understand that there was an issue there. Let's have you come here for a semester. And if, there's no problems, then, we'll talk about it the following semester. There's documented problems that he had with his professor and other students throughout the early part of the semester. So I'm not surprised that he wasn't selected. What do you think?
No, no, definitely. Going back and still the problems he's been having. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, and going back a little bit farther back, but with the rejection kind of thing.
Yeah.
A lot of people can only take so much rejection and then they lash out. You know what I mean? Like the guy said, people snap. Maybe that could have been a trigger for him. It's like, you know what? Like he's tired of the rejection and he wants to lash out about it.
It definitely could be it. Like you said, everybody has a boiling point. Everybody has a part where they snap, I guess. Some people can handle it. Some people can't, right? When they get to that point. And in this situation, it definitely seems like he couldn't. If BK knows how they would investigate him, why buy a kbar knife on Amazon? Do you think he just never thought about that, especially if he was planning it? Well, I don't think he intended on leaving the knife sheath behind. And because of that, I don't think they also intended for him to be investigated at all. I think he thought, and honestly, had he not left the knife sheath behind, I think he would have been, he'd still be a free man. Like I said, I don't think he was planning on leaving the knife sheath behind and that they would ever go that far into his background. But it is kind of weird that there is some sort of paper trail for that item. But then again, we've asked forensic experts about, if you can tell what kind of knife it is, and it's not 100%, right? Based on the wounds. I don't know. All right, let's finish this out.
He has a number of issues on campus. As a student, it's claimed he's pushy, known for sitting front and center, quickly offering opinions, and regularly battling with female professors.
As we look at Bryan Kohberger, we start to learn about him as a person who is described by others as arrogant, having haughty attitudes, and that's certainly a personality structure that is consistent with one who might not look at others, including women, as his equal.
And off campus, he has issues as well, allegedly sneaking into a female friend's apartment and moving her furniture around, and having this exchange with a female police officer who pulls him over.
I think you know why I stopped you. You ran the red light.
What actually happened was I was stuck in the middle of the intersection.
Yeah,
so
I was behind you the whole time. Yeah.
Yeah, but in that situation, the best thing to do then would be back up and not.
You're just supposed to wait behind the white line. Drivers do it all the time, but
it never even occurred to me that was actually something wrong. I'm just curious about the law. I don't mean to.
Oh no, yeah, I can find it for you. Yeah.
See, I didn't think there was anything bad about that stop, to be honest with you. No, I thought that stop was just, he was polite. He had questions. He wanted to understand what he did wrong and how to not do that again in the future so that he wouldn't violate the law. I never thought it was inappropriate or anything like that.
No, yeah, I agree. I think by him asking more questions and trying to be more interested in the fact that what he did and admitted that he actually did it, but trying to learn from it, was trying to almost like deter the officer to not write a ticket, kind of.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, he was asking questions. He was asking the right questions, and at the end of the day, he got a warning. Yeah, I mean, he got a warning. If he was being a jerk, I don't think he would have gotten a warning. You get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. All right, let's do this.
Assistant, he's said to be a very harsh grader. Faculty tells Kohberger they're concerned about his behavior after he has an alleged altercation with a professor. That's less than 2 weeks before Moscow, Idaho is changed forever.
Moscow police have confirmed they found 4 people dead in this neighborhood just off of King Road, south of the University of Idaho.
Kaylee Goncalves, Madison Mogen, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin.
Police in the school have insisted that this was an isolated crime of passion.
In the weeks following the murders, the WSU and University of Idaho campuses on edge with the killer on the loose, but classes continue. Former students say Kohberger, a once harsh grader, suddenly starts giving good marks. Yet he's fired from his TA position after only a few months on the job for failing to meet, quote, norms of professional behavior. As Thanksgiving break approaches and Moscow authorities remain tight-lipped about a suspect in the gruesome killings on King Road, Kohberger embarks on a father-son road trip from Washington to his hometown in Pennsylvania, getting pulled over not once.
Where are you headed?
Well, we're coming from WSU.
But twice within the span of just 9 minutes.
Hello, best good airplanes?
While 4 families mourn the loss of their loved ones, Kohberger makes it home for the holidays with his family. Authorities are quietly monitoring his every move. They allegedly watch him clean out his Hyundai Elantra and take family trash to the neighbor's bin in the middle of the night. One of Kohberger's own sisters reportedly grows suspicious of her brother's behavior and searches his car for possible evidence.
Agents recovered the trash from the Kohberger family residence in Pennsylvania to get a family DNA sample. The next day, the Idaho State Lab matched it to the DNA from the knife sheath.
In a bed next to one of the victims, a knife sheath.
The 2 samples were related with at least 99.998% certainty.
Police make their move.
Bryan Kohberger is in custody, arrested in Pennsylvania this morning.
Kohberger was arrested without incident and charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder.
I was playing Call of Duty with my friends, and my one friend said, "Did you hear about those murders? The guy that did them lives down the road from me." I'm like, "Oh, that's nuts." I looked up Idaho murders, and my first thought was, "Oh my God, that's Bryan." That internal battle is like, this is the guy I knew, and this guy cared about what's best for him, but at the same time, what he possibly did is heinous to a level where it's like, it's irredeemable.
I heard his name on a news alert and I immediately was shocked. And I looked at my husband who was driving and I said, Bryan Kohberger, he was one of my students and I know his family and sisters very well. Because he had such supportive parents, I was very surprised to hear the accusations that are now wielded against him.
Bryan was a very good student. He was very serious about what he wanted to do. So hearing that such an egregious crime was committed was very surprising. I started to think about incidents that had occurred. And then I thought, well, that makes sense. Everybody is affected by this. Teachers, guidance counselors, everyone who has come in contact with him and had some kind of relationship, or any of the students at some time, are directly affected by this. The parents are people, the sisters are people, the family are people.
Kohberger's family says he's, quote, a caring son and brother.
The search warrant for Idaho quadruple murder suspect Bryan Kohberger's apartment. Police found reportedly a pillow with a reddish brown stain one night.
We already know. I don't remember anything about shoes with a diamond pattern soles which match a footprint found.
Yeah, I just saw that too. I was like, what? I don't remember seeing that.
I don't remember seeing that. Man, now I'm questioning everything in this damn podcast. But I want to hear it if that's what they say.
Trait type black glove, a possible hair strand, and shoes with diamond pattern soles, which matches the footprint that was found at the scene.
Judge John.
Did they pick up shoes? I don't remember being shoes at his apartment.
I don't remember seeing that on the inventory thing, right?
Yeah. And the ones in PA, I think he had like Nikes or something.
Yeah. I don't remember, unless the Nikes have diamond shaped pattern. I don't think they do.
I don't think they do, because
the most common obviously is going to be Vans.
Right. But I don't remember seeing that at all, and that's confusing. But at the same time, media know a lot more than what they disclose out there based on the gag order. Keeping certain stuff confidential, things of that nature, right? I mean, we knew certain stuff based on our conversations with people in the area, and these news media folks were talking with multiple people from the area, and so I can understand that they have a lot more information than what we probably have and haven't disclosed yet. Is it possible they found the man's shoes that match, or his shoes there that match your footprint, and we don't know about it?
I don't know. I mean, like we said earlier, like Vans is probably one of the biggest, most common shoe out there. So
Yeah.
I mean, just because it matched the pattern doesn't mean they match the footprint itself, right? I mean,
We
I
have
have
a lot of
Vans.
people. We got a lot of people saying that the house was a size 9. BK wears a 12 or 13. I never saw what the size was. If you can send me an email with a link that says that the size, I would appreciate that. Mikey says his dad wears New Balances. Who had a New Balance on at court? No Vans, no Nikes. All right, let's finish this out.
Judge read Kohberger his rights.
You understand these rights?
Yes. Then the charges.
Count 1, burglary. Count 2, 3, 4, 5, murder in the first degree. Ms. Taylor, is Mr. Kohberger prepared to plead to these charges?
Your Honor, we will be standing aside.
Because Mr. Kohberger is standing.
Did he say 5 murder in the first degree?
5, but wasn't it like 1 like burglary or some shit?
Yeah, there's a felony burglary, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 murders of the first degree.
I saw. To me, it kind of sounded like it was kind of edited, so I don't know.
Yeah, it could have been. It could have been. And the words are backwards.
And if you replay, we'll probably end up losing it.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to enter not guilty pleas on each charge.
Just based on the evidence they have and all the information that the police have gathered, he's looking pretty guilty.
But BLS hopes he's wrong.
I still hope he's innocent. There's still some part of me that, not my friend. I don't want my friend to have been the one that committed these crimes. It's just, it's kind of rough thinking that I had someone like that in my house, in my life.
Kohberger sits in the Latah County Jail just 5 minutes from the murder scene. He maintains his innocence. Dr. Mahande questions any alleged killer's intentions for starting Bible study.
Certainly, religion and spirituality is a place for people to find comfort when they're overwhelmed by fear and uncertainty for their future. On the other hand, it can be for sympathy, to look good, in the eyes of, a trier of fact in the face of sentencing.
As Kohberger awaits his fate, his lawyers demand more information from prosecutors about the DNA found at the crime scene of 3 other unidentified males. They also share Kohberger's alibi, claiming he was driving around alone late at night at the time of the killings.
I'm hoping that he is innocent, as he's claiming to be. Once the facts come out, then I will form an opinion. But right now, Bryan is innocent until he's proven guilty. If he is guilty, what snapped?
There's more to it. Obviously, I took a couple of pieces out.
Yeah.
And they talked about religion and stuff, and Bryan Kohberger talking to a religious person. And, I didn't think that actually had anything to do with the crime. There's nothing he can say or not say about it. You know what I mean? So I took out some of those type of things, but all in all, it kind of shows a little bit of a pattern here, where Bryan Kohberger has, gotten kicked out or fired from almost every job. I'm not sure if there's one that he didn't. I mean, he got fired from the fish cutting, and then the security guard gig, which came after school, and he was doing that for 5 years. And then the TA position, which came right after he got out of the cells, and the security guard stuff was while he was attending the cells as well. Yeah, I don't think he got a job or a position or any of those type of things, especially those of authority. You're looking at the law enforcement class where he was, security guard ish. You're looking at the TA position where he's in charge of other, students and things like that. The comments there are that he had a problem with authority.
Yeah, and probably anger issues.
Yeah, I mean, he's been turned down so many times. The lady asked what snapped. I think it's just so much getting turned down by the police department, the school firing him as a teacher's assistant. Every job he's gotten has led to termination or forced to resign. I don't know. This doesn't seem like a guy who wouldn't commit this crime, right? When people say, hey, he was a PhD student, he had his whole life ahead of him, this, that, and a third, he wouldn't commit this crime. And then you see his past, not so fast, right?
Yeah, and unfortunately, the thing that sucks about it is that you don't see them as red flags when they're happening. But once the event has happened, it's like, oh, yeah, now it makes sense.
And we've heard some people say that. afterwards are like, I would have never thought he did it, but it kind of makes sense. We had Bree on, who was a friend of Kohberger's as well. And she kind of mentioned the same thing, that she talked to a couple of people from the area. Some people said that they didn't think he could do it or that he did it. And then some people said that it makes sense and they didn't know why, just that he did. It's interesting, but I thought it was a pretty good podcast. Got some information that I didn't know about.
For sure.
I'm interested in knowing about this these shoes that they got that had the Vans toe print. It was found in a drop of blood, so you would assume there'd be some sort of DNA on it, unless he cleaned it, of course. We'll know more in court. Do you have any final thoughts or final words for everybody before we close it out?
I just want to say thanks, like always. Thanks for joining us. Thanks, mods, members, subscribers, and we'll see you next time.
We'll see you next time. We'll be back, and we might do something this weekend. So if you're not subscribed and you're still watching, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and share. We're trying to hit 40K. We'd appreciate your guys' help. We'll see you guys. Yeah, we'll see you guys in probably in a couple of days. Peace.
Oh, yeah.